I would like to reconvene the meeting and call the meeting to order for the City Council meeting of December 19th, 2017. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Here.
Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
Councilmember Moats?
Here.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Here.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Here. City Attorney, Mr. Trujillo, could you please give the closed session report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There is no reportable action for the two closed session items this evening. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you. Our first order of business is the presentation of the 2017 Holiday Light Sites and Holiday Nights contest winners, and Recreation and Parks Director Posada will be making the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. So it's always fun to bring this particular item to you, and it kind of just shows the community spirit that Santa Marians get into when it comes time to decorate their homes. So this year we kind of took a little bit of a different approach on the contest. Every year we try to give you a different angle. The Park Commission went out and did some judging along with our staff and came up with the individuals that we're going to recognize tonight. So it's hard to believe, but this is the 21st annual. So it's a lot of years that we've been doing this, and kind of surprised me when I read the staff report. I think one of the things that we tried to do is, again, change it up. So this year your categories are going to be the Best Decorated Rookie Award, the Clark Griswold Award, and for those of you that need context, that is from Vacation, the movie Vacation, so just so you know. The Norman Rockwell Award, and the Simply Christmas Award. And while our commissioners were out doing the visits, they decided they were also going to do a new award, and they added the Neighborhood Spirit Award. So we have some of our recipients here this evening. They were able to join us. So the slideshow will be kind of running in the background. We're just going to let it run if that's all right, and then that way everybody can take a look at each of the addresses. So first, again, I'd like to thank everyone who submitted names to us. That's the way we develop our map of places for individuals to go see. I want to thank the media for putting this information out so that everybody will know where to go to see all the lights around the city. I know my family's tradition is to go out Christmas Eve and do that, so hopefully everybody else will share in a family tradition like that, and this kind of a program can add to those traditions. So I'd like to begin. I'm going to ask Recreation Supervisor Jason Davey to help me present the awards tonight. And I'd like to first call up our 2017 Best Decorated Rookie Award. And the winner is the Rodriguez family from 1411 McElhaney Avenue. Are the Rodriguezes here? Come on up. If you'd like to say anything, you're perfectly welcome to take a moment at the podium. And
We actually do want to thank the board. I know you talked to her Alex Antler's group one time.
Oh, yes.
You mentioned that not very many people come and thank the board for all that you guys do with the community, so we did that.
thank you very much.
Thank
And thanks
you
for participating. So our next category is the 2017 Clark Griswold Award, and the winner this year is the Cardona family from 2040 Lassen Drive. The Cardonas here. Oh, there they are. Yay. And that's their house up on the screen right there.
We're happy to be part of, thank you very much, and we're happy to be part of this promotion program. It's outstanding to share the spirit in the community and the city, and I will say this, it's very hard to take a picture of our house because our lights are always moving, and it's synchronized to music, so come by and see us at Lassen and tune your radio and listen to our lights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The 2017 Norman Rockwell Award, we're going to have to to have a little extra on that one. The winner is the Carcari family at 407 Pam Court. They're not here this evening, but we thought we would definitely recognize them, and that's their house there. And then our 2017 Simply Christmas Award winners is the Saavedra family at 2859 Stardust Drive. Are they here this evening? Come on up.
I just want to thank you all. It's such an honor, and we've participated in this for so many years, and a lot of times it's so much work we want to give up. But when, our neighbors, our community, we see people stopping by, it's so rewarding. So it is truly an awesome city. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So our Neighborhood Spirit Award, the winner is the Villegas family at 1608 Cat Lane. They're also not able to be with us, but that's their residence. And just for the record, I'd just like to read our Hall of Fame families. Obviously, one of our bigger businesses in town that always goes all out is Michael B. Clayton at 400 East Orange. The Malena family at 515 North Lucas. The Bernards at 228 South Linda. The Gomez family at 1032 McNeil. And the Shreves family at 427 South Palisades. The Murillo family at 639 Forbes Place. The Fernbaugh family at 164 Palm Court. And the Cote family at 1048 Granada Street. The Emerys at 202 North Palisades. And the Yerharts at 1026 Butterfly Court. All these addresses are on our holiday map, and we invite the community to go out and visit and enjoy the festivities of the holidays and use this kind of as your kickoff. I'd also like to thank the staff at Rec and Parks for putting the project together. Jason Davey and his staff, worked pretty hard on getting this together. And of course, thanking the commissioners for annually going out and doing the judging, which is always difficult to do. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Posada, and thank you all that have taken the time to decorate your house and make it look festive. Thank you so much. The next order of business is a retirement resolution, and Councilmember Boyson will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to introduce for consideration Resolution Number 2017-140. And this is a retirement resolution for Mr. Greg Gardner. Whereas Greg Gardner has been a dedicated employee of the City of Santa Maria Finance Department since being hired as an accountant in January 2006, and whereas his vast knowledge of payroll and accounts payable processes have been an invaluable asset to the City of Santa Maria, and whereas Greg's significant accomplishments include, but are not limited to, assisting numerous employees through unfamiliar payroll processes, including workman's compensation, short-term and long-term disability, and applying for retirement, solving technical issues associated with the implementation of the mandatory time-off program, and developing procedures to meet reporting requirements under the Affordable Care Act. And whereas Greg's insight, positive attitude, and customer service are exceptional, and he has exemplified the city mission statement in his interactions with colleagues, subordinates, managers, employees, and residents. And whereas Greg will be retiring on December 29th, 2017, after nearly 12 years of continued service with the City of Santa Maria. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that the City Council of the City of Santa Maria as follows. Greg Gardner is hereby recognized and commended for his dedication, exemplary service, and contributions to the City of Santa Maria, and is congratulated on his retirement, and we wish him and his family well in all future endeavors. And I would present that as a motion, Madam Mayor.
Second. It's been moved and second to present Greg Gardner resolution. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
And I know Greg's here.
First of all, I'd like to say I'm very grateful and I'm humbled by this acknowledgement. I've enjoyed my time with the city. I've been blessed to have worked with a wonderful group of co-workers, managers, administration. I'd like to personally thank Mary Harvey for her leadership and for having created a wonderful working environment. I'd also like to thank my wife of nearly 32 years for putting up with my stubborn work ethic. I thank her for her support and her guidance. And there's a saying that behind every great man there's a woman. I don't necessarily consider myself a great man, but I sure have a great woman to support me. Thank you.
Ms. Harvey, I'm sure you'd like to say a few words.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I thought about what I wanted people to know about Greg, I thought of three things. The first is that he has a very strong work ethic and he's very dependable. Over the course of this 12 years, he's helped us complete 312 pay periods, which equates to over 200,000 paychecks for employees and over 10,000 W-2s over that time. The second thing I wanted people to know about him is his willingness to help anybody and his coworkers, and he's been a real great sounding board for HR and for myself when we've had some issues come up with payroll and different reporting requirements and things that have changed over the years. And he's really helped our staff, our finance staff, be prepared to live a payroll life without Greg. It's going to be tough. But we're up for the challenge, and he's made it so that we will be successful. And the third thing I wanted people to know is how compassionate he is towards his employees. And in particular, those that are going through life-changing events. And whether it's a birth of a child, a divorce, a work-related injury or illness, or a retirement, he's always there for them, and he's always going for what he can do for that employee and how he can help them through that. And then, Greg, I just really want to thank you for all the hard work you have put in for all these years and the support you've provided me personally. I've been able to be a leader because you've been able to help me do that, and I really appreciate that. And most of all, I thank you on behalf of those employees that you helped during those tough times. We will miss you. And we wish you and Jackie a good health and happiness in your retirement.
Thank you. And I personally want to thank you, Greg, for all your contributions. And every time I see you, you always have a smile on your face. And it's not just for me, it's for everyone. And people really appreciate you. They're going to miss you. Thank you. Our next order of business is another retirement resolution, and Councilmember Cordero will be making the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution commending and recognizing the work history of Commander Kendall Green. Before I read it, I have to share that I worked many of the years with him, and I have a very fond and vivid memory of talking with him in front of the 7-Eleven at 121 West Stowe Road, years before he became a police officer. Those of you who don't know it, Kendall enjoyed a history of baseball and was quite successful. I think you were tried out by a couple of pro teams, if I'm not mistaken. And we were talking that night, I don't know whether Kendall remembers it, but we were talking about the police department, and he was kind of toying with the idea. And whoever I was with, we encouraged him, of course, to put in his application. Of course, I might not have encouraged him to put it in if I'd have known then that someday I'd end up working for him. but I certainly enjoyed working all my years that I worked with Kendall Green, and so I introduced this resolution number 2017-141. Whereas Division Commander Kendall Green has been employed by and has faithfully served the city of Santa Maria since August 12, 1991, and whereas Division Commander Kendall Green's service has been with distinction and of the highest quality, and whereas Division Commander Kendall Green has been committed to the philosophies of community-based policing and the ethic of treating all persons with dignity and respect, and whereas the Division Commander Kendall Green has provided the residents and businesses in the community with extraordinary professional law enforcement service and great compassion, and whereas Division Commander Kendall Green, through his dedication, loyalty, and devotion to duty, has contributed measurably to the quality of life that residents, businesses, and visitors enjoy in Santa Maria. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved by the City Council of the City of Santa Maria as follows. Division Commander Kendall Green is commended for his faithful, distinguished, and devoted service to the community, is congratulated on his retirement, and the city wishes him and his family continued good health and many years of happiness. Passed and adopted at the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Santa Maria held on the 19th day of December 2017, and I offer that as a motion, Mayor.
It was quick. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield? Aye. Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
And here, of course, to accept this is Commander Green himself.
I can do that. Well, first of all, thank you, Councilman Cordero, for keeping it clean. Some things need to. Yeah. Thank you. It's been truly an honor and a privilege to serve my community. I was born and raised here in the city of Santa Maria. I do remember that conversation in front of 7-Eleven that we've had, and all I ever wanted to do is help people. And I think I've accomplished that. I want to thank Chief Henson and the men and women at the Santa Maria Police Department for helping shape what you see standing before you tonight. And I can honestly say I'm truly a better man leaving than when I came in. So thank you.
Chief Hansen.
To say a word or two about Kendall?
Yes.
Before I do, I wanted to tell Greg Gardner that I think the saying goes, behind every great man, there's a woman that says he did it all wrong. That's all. Kendall is, he's just a class act. And that little speech he gave right there is just indicative of his performance on a day-to-day basis. He's a true gentleman. He doesn't seek credit for himself. He's been through a lot. You don't do 25, 26 years in this business without seeing a lot of heartache and without going through a lot of difficult things in your life. And he does it with a sense of pride and a lot of tact, and just he's a basically good human being, just a wonderful, wonderful guy to work with. When Ralph Martin, Chief Martin and I came on board, Kendall, change is always difficult for everybody. And obviously this department went through a number of changes over the years, and Kendall accepted the change. He helped implement the change. He wasn't an impediment to it. He just did everything he could to support us and be a gentleman and make our lives easier. And I just want to thank him. He's a true gentleman, and thank you, Kendall, for everything you've done for us.
Madam Mayor, if I can just say a few words in regards to Kendall. I want to thank you so much for everything you have done for the Santa Maria Police Department. And while this resolution is spot on, what really stands out is the ethic of treating all persons with dignity and respect. And from the moment I met you, Kendall, that's exactly how you treated me. But I got to tell you, it's not going to excuse you from our police council's golf tournament, and you have to bring your sons, right? So remember, mark June, and we'll see you guys there. Okay.
And I'd like to say also, Kendall, because we certainly go back a long way, and we certainly appreciate in the city everything you've done. People will always come up to me and comment about you, what a nice person you are, how fair you are with people, and the community that you have been raised in, but you are so much a part of. So I thank you so much. At this time, I would like to take a moment of silence. As you well know, firefighter Corey Iverson, 32 years old, from San Diego, was lost down outside of Fillmore in this fire, and I'd like to take a couple of moments of silence. Thank you. It's, I can't imagine how difficult it is for the, and I speak when we have badge pinnings, and how difficult it is for families, and never knowing if their loved ones are going to come home, and they deserve to come home. And they deserve our support, not only just as elected, but as the community. Next item on our agenda will be the public comment period. Madam Clerk, could you please read the criteria for public comment portion of this agenda?
This item is reserved for time to accept comments from the public on consent agenda items, closed session items, or matters not on the agenda this evening. Otherwise, unless otherwise directed by the mayor, speakers will have 3 minutes to comment. Direction to staff may be given. However, state law does not allow action to be taken by the city council on matters not on the printed agenda this evening. Once the public comment period commences, no other speakers will be allowed to submit a request to speak form.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers this evening?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. So, Mr. Stillwell, are there any comments you would like to make this evening?
At this point, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar, Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 3?
Routine items are presented for city council approval without discussion as a single agenda item in order to expedite the meeting. The consent calendar is approved by roll call vote with one motion. These items are discussed only on the request of council members.
Does anyone have items they wish to pull for discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I do. I'd like to pull item number EB, not for any problems, just for some clarification.
3B.
3B.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I need to recuse myself from item G.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. 3B.
Small b. E. Yeah, excuse me, it's E.
Oh, 3E.
But E,
Oh, E.
specifically subsection B.
Oh, subsection B. Okay.
That's where the EB came in.
Who's on first?
Okay, Mr. Cordero, go ahead.
I would just like to ask city manager to explain this a little bit to some of the listening public. What we have here is nearly a $2 million figure, and I'm thinking that some people may not know exactly what this is and wondering where this $1.7 million is coming from, when in actuality it is not a $1.7 million, and I'll leave it up to Mr. Stillwell to explain that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Cordero, members of the council. So we collect or we require bonds as a condition of approval of new development to assure that public improvements are put in place and that they make it through a warranty period. And so that could include the developer putting in landscaping as required by the city, building a retaining wall. And so they put up collateral in the form of a bond to assure that those public improvements are either going to be completed after they're done with the construction or that they make it through a warranty period. And so we have a process during the development review to identify what public improvements there are and what the costs are associated with that, and that's what the bond number is based on. And then we have a process after the construction of the project to review the work that was completed as part of the development and to make sure it was completed as required, and then then the city council has the opportunity to release the bond. So it's collateral essentially that the developer puts up to make sure they build what we require them of, or require of them.
Thank you. That's just the explanation I wanted because somebody else asked me about it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion?
With that, Madam Mayor, I would move for the approval of the consent calendar with the exception of item G.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item G. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield? Aye. Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats? Aye. And Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
And Madam Mayor, I would move for the approval of item 3G.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve item G on the consent calendar. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield? Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
And Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. Next order of business is a public hearing. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
Okay. The City Council will conduct a public hearing under the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, better known as TEFRA, and after public hearing testimony, adopt a resolution approving the issuance of bonds in the amount of $11 million by the California Municipal Finance Authority for the benefit of the People's Self-Help Housing Corporation to provide for the financing of the Sierra Madre Cottages project.
Staff report is to be made by Director of Finance, Ms. Harvey.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff, and the public. We are here this evening to conduct a public hearing pursuant to the Federal Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, or TEFRA. TEFRA requires that a public hearing be held by the governing body of the jurisdiction in which a project to be financed is located, and that the governing body approve the proposed financing. The California Municipal Finance Authority, CMFA, is a joint powers authority formed to assist local governments, nonprofit organizations, and businesses with the issuance of both taxable and tax-exempt debt. Sierra Madre Cottages LP proposes to obtain tax-exempt financing in an amount not to exceed $11 million to finance the acquisition, construction, improvement, and equipping of a 40-unit affordable rental housing facility to be owned and operated by the borrower and located at 624 East Camino Colegio within the city of Santa Maria. The debt to be issued by the CMFA will be the sole responsibility of Sierra Madre Cottages LP, and the city will have no financial or legal obligations or responsibilities with regard to the repayment of the debt. All financing documents will carry disclaimers that the loan is not an obligation of the city, and the city will also bear no cost in the issuance of the proposed debt. This is a private loan with the borrower and their bank. It is recommended that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the issuance of bonds by the CMFA for the benefit of Sierra Madre Cottages LP. Such adoption is solely for the purposes of satisfying the requirements of TEFRA, the Code, and the California Government Code Section 6500. Carlos Jimenez of People Self-Help Housing and Travis Cooper of CMFA are here tonight to answer any questions that City Council or the public may have.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Any questions of Ms. Harvey?
No, ma'am. I just want to make a comment and just to let the public know that this is just a step that we need to go through with the City Council approval to get their project started. So,
Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
So I'll open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak in favor?
No, Madam Mayor, we have no requests to speak at all.
Or against? Okay. I'll close the public hearing, bring this back to the council for discussion or a motion.
Well, Madam Mayor, this is
Yes.
obviously a very important project that we're looking forward to People Self-Help Housing getting started and completing. It's great to see this first step taking place, and with that, I would put forth a resolution adopting the approval of the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds by the California Municipal Finance Authority for the purpose of an affordable housing facility for Sierra Madre Cottages or another entity to be formed by People's Self-Help Housing Corporation or an affiliate.
Second.
I have a motion to adopt a resolution approving the issuance of the bonds and the second on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
And Madam Mayor Patiu.
Aye. Next order of business is another public hearing. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
City Council will consider recommendations of the Planning Commission to approve a general plan land use and zoning map amendment to change the land use designation from HCM heavy commercial manufacturing to HDR 22 high density residential 22 and associated zoning designation from CM commercial manufacturing to R3 high density residential on a 0.2 acre property located at 111 West Cook Street, and a negative declaration pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act.
Staff report is to be made by Community Development Director, Mr. Ng.
Good evening, Madam Mayor Patino, members of the council. This is a request for general plan amendment and zone change at 1111 West Cook. This is an aerial photo of the project site, and the project site is on Cook. About mid-block between Russell and Blosser is to the west. This is the existing zoning. There's a CM commercial manufacturing zone to the west and R3 multifamily to the east, and slightly further to the east across Russell Avenue is R1 single family zoning. So the proposal is to go from a CM zoning to an R3, so industrial to a residential use. This is a preliminary site plan. If the request is to be approved, there is vacant property behind an existing single-family house, and the applicant wishes to build a duplex in the future should this be approved. So this is a street view of the existing site. It's a single-family home on an R3 lot, and to the west and to the east are also residential uses. This is a snapshot of the view looking west, and so you can see a use located on the south side of Cook, and that appears to be a water well drilling company. And on the north side of Cook, there is a carpet business to the west of the existing residences. This is looking the opposite direction to the east, and there are more residential uses located to the east, a mixture of multifamily and single-family uses. And this is the street view directly across the street from the project site. This is also part of that water well drilling company. It looks like that's their yard where they store some pipes. So the Planning Commission did meet regarding this request on November 15, 2017. There was some discussion about a loss of commercial manufacturing land in place of a residential, but given that the existing property is residential, has an existing house, it would be difficult to really use it for an industrial use. To accommodate industrial use, you would either have to demolish the building or make some major modifications. And even if you did, it's a small site and really wouldn't accommodate or be conducive to industrial use. So given that, the Planning Commission felt that the zone should match the existing use, which is residential. And given that there is still vacant property behind the single-family home, that a multifamily designation would still be appropriate, given that there are duplexes and triplexes and apartments within the area. So with that, I have a slide with a recommendation here that the City Council accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and take the following actions. Adopt a resolution amending general plan land use map designation on the 0.2 acre site from heavy commercial manufacturing HCM to high density residential HDR 22, and to introduce an ordinance for the first reading and continue to the next meeting for a second reading and adoption, amending the zoning map of the 0.2 acre from CM commercial manufacturing to R3 high density residential. This concludes staff's presentation. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Eng?
I just have
Ms.
one
Whitefield?
question, and to me, this looks like a obvious good project because of the residential in front and the residential to the west of it as well. But the access for duplex, would that be through the alleyway for the residences?
It would be through the alleyway, yes.
Okay, thank you. And that would be for parking too and all that good stuff?
Correct.
Mr. Eng, is the applicant here when they wish to speak?
The applicant is Luis Chavez, and he is in the audience.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chavez. Would you like to make any comments?
Good evening. My name is Gil Rodriguez. I'm actually the applicant for Mr. Luis Chavez. Yes, we would just like to make better use of the property. That piece of property is only 3,000 square feet, and it's kind of tucked away in the back, so for commercial use, it would be not very cost-effective to try to make that work. So we appreciate your consideration to this.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any written correspondence?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
So I'd like to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak in favor or in opposition?
We have no request to speak at this time.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring the item back to the council for discussion or a motion.
Madam Mayor, if there's no discussion, I would like to go ahead and approve. Let me get to where I need to be.
It's behind you.
To approve the resolution amending the general plan land use map designated to the 0.2 acre from heavy commercial manufacturing to high density residential, and to introduce an ordinance for the first reading and continue to the next meeting for the second reading and adoption, amending the zoning map for the 0.2 acre site from CM manufacturing to high density residential district.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Trio.
If I can also have a motion to approve the environmental document, which is resolution in your staff report. H.
I would like to go ahead and amend my motion to include what Mr. Trujillo just mentioned.
Second the motion.
So that's resolution 2017
We're not assigning the resolutions
We're not.
at this time, so we'll number them after.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolutions approving the negative deck and land use policy map amendment and the introduction of an ordinance amending the official zoning map for 1111 West Cook Street. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Waterfield?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye. Next item is a regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please read the title?
The City Council will consider approving the partial reprogramming of home investment partnership funding to People's Self-Help Housing to assist with the construction of the Sierra Madre Cottages affordable housing complex for seniors.
Staff report is to be made by Community Programs Manager, Ms. Nadas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. We come before you tonight to recommend that you adopt a resolution approving the partial reprogramming of existing home funds. And before we proceed, here's a little bit of background about these home funds. The city has participated in the home program as part of a consortium with the County of Santa Barbara since the program's inception in 1995. Santa Barbara County is the lead agency and fiscal agent for the consortium, and the city serves as a subrecipient of those home funds. Currently, the city is using these funds to administer the Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Program, better known as TBRA. TBRA program assists low-income households with a one-time security deposit payment for rentals in Santa Maria. The deposit can range from a few $100s to a couple thousand. However, in recent years, one of the challenges we've faced is the lack of affordable rental housing, particularly for those qualifying for TBRA. So to put it in perspective, from July through November of just this year, the city expended a little over $6,700 and assisted 16 households. At this rate, we will spend a little more than $16,000 in one full year and will only have assisted 32 households during that same year. Sounds like a lot, however, just comparing it to 5 years ago, the city assisted 174 households and spent well over $100,000. So how much do we currently have? We actually have about $230,000 right now to spend by the HUD deadline of September 2019. So that sounds like we have almost 2 years, but really, we have to keep in mind that in less than a year, October of 2018, the city will receive a whole new allocation from the county because we're back with the county as part of the consortium. At our current rate, it would take us several more years to expend the current funding, which could result in the recapture of funds by HUD and also could result in the delay of our 2018 home funds. In order to move the current funding along and not jeopardize any future funding we are proposed to get, we are proposing that we keep about $80,000 for TBRA funding, which will definitely carry us through next year. And the reason we're asking for that much is because we do have Los Adobes de Maria 3, which is due to be completed in the spring, and that's going to be 34 units right there that will need deposits. So we wanted to make sure we left enough money for those units as well as any other units that might come up. The People Self-Help Housing Los Adobes de Maria 3 project. No, that's the one on Russell, I believe. Russell and Boone. Yeah. So we're asking for $80,000 to stay with TBRA, and then we're asking for the other $150,000 to go to People Self-Help Housing for the Sierra Madre cottages, which also came up tonight for the TEFRA hearing. This project consists of building a 40-unit affordable senior housing development. The city has already provided the project with about $600,000 in both community development block grant funding and home funding. By reallocating part of our home funds to this project, another local affordable housing project will also benefit. I'm referring to the Housing Authority of Santa Barbara County's Residences at Depot Street. So that project consists of creating an 80 affordable housing units for a variety of people, including veterans and those dealing with mental and physical disabilities. Both People Self-Help and the Housing Authority have gone to the County of Santa Barbara asking for additional home funds to assist them with their affordable housing projects. The county is willing to also provide both of them with some of its own home funds, further helping both projects move forward. Staff did look into other options when trying to figure out a way to expend this home funding in a timely fashion. We looked into providing assistance with utility bills and even rental assistance for residents of Santa Maria. However, doing so would require an increased amount of administrative burden on staff, and since the city is a subrecipient of home funds and not an actual recipient, funding to cover administrative costs is not covered. In addition, providing rental assistance would put the city in a position where it would then be responsible for providing rental assistance of some sort when the TBRA money runs out. The goal of home funds, and of course the city's, is to aid in the construction and availability of affordable housing. With that in mind, the city staff worked closely with the County of Santa Barbara, People Self-Help Housing, and the Housing Authority, and agreed that under the circumstances, this would be our best option and outcome. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Also, representatives from People Self-Help Housing are also here to help answer any questions.
Are there any questions of Ms. Nares?
I think I'd like to ask
Dr. Moats?
There are going to be 40 cottages, and the square footage of the cottages is going to be what?
I believe they are between 600 and 800 square feet. But 700 and 900 square feet.
Oh, okay.
And they will consist of 1 and 2 bedroom units.
And the project's going to cost $11 million?
Actually, I would rather have somebody from People's Self-Help actually answer those questions regarding the actual construction costs of Sierra Madre.
Okay.
Mayor Patino, members of council. The project, in terms of the construction, hard construction, will be about $8 million in total for a construction period, about $13 million. So there's other costs associated with bond issuance fees, attorneys. Once you get into these bond deals, there's other costs that we have to account for in terms of legal counsel, development fees to the city, other project costs. So fully captured, it's $13 million. Hard construction cost is $8 million.
So the whole thing costs $13 million?
The whole project itself will be $13 million by the time we're done with permanent financing. On the construction side, I'm sorry, it's $12 million at the construction, so $8 million in hard construction costs and $12 million fully captured.
Because I just divided 11 million by 40 units, and it comes out to about 275,000 per unit. At an average of 800 square feet per unit, it would cost $343 a square foot to build these. That sounds like a lot of money.
That's not uncommon for these deals. Right. It really isn't.
It is?
No, we're building projects in South County that are 500 per unit and such. So, I mean, the costs are just what they are. And we have a very high standard of development that's imposed upon us. And this is a prevailing wage project as well. So there's about a 20% boost for salaries per prevailing wage.
Okay. I was just thinking if I purchased a lot and built a 3,000 square foot house at $343, and that would cost then over $1 million for one house.
Yeah.
At a building cost of $343 a square foot.
This is a great comment because it's also being addressed at the state. They're trying to figure out how can we contain some of these costs because in certain areas, South Coast and Northern California, the costs are incredible per square foot, and the tax credit allocation committee is kind of saying, how can we because obviously when those costs are so high, there's limited resources to spread around for many projects. So it's always an impetus on the state's part is how can we they've done cost studies and other kind of things, other kind of analysis that are trying to really rein in costs, but certain costs are what they are pursuant to these programs. We have to build actually to a fairly high standard of construction that may supersede private developers actually. Because of the state involvement.
The state mandates that cause you to
That's correct.
have to do certain items.
Supersede certain things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For example, minimum unit square footage sizes. We can't just build smaller units and say we want to build more. They have minimum square footage size of habitable space. So whereas we might propose smaller units, the state will say, no, there's a minimum standard of what we expect a one-bedroom to be, or a two-bedroom to be, or a three-bedroom to be. So I'm kind of experiencing that firsthand on another project on the South Coast where we're next to a private developer and those units are really small and expensive, and ours are bigger and very inexpensive, and it's kind of paradoxical. And we couldn't possibly build as many as they're trying to build. We're not allowed to do that. We can't build smaller units than what they might require otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any further questions.
Any questions?
No, other than a comment that this is a really big eye-opener, and I understand where Council Member Moats is coming from, but the public doesn't really understand what the state brings down to our level and things that we can't do anything about because they're the stronger and bigger majority over us, and it's just, this is taxpayers' money, and sometimes it just does not make a heck of a lot of sense, and I understand where you're coming from, absolutely.
And I might just add as an example, by the time Rancho Hermosa was finally built, the 47 units there at the corner of Vinger and McClellan, by the time that was built and by the time it had gone through 2 or 3 different developers and the Housing Authority got it, and land costs and everything else and requirements for commercial space and that sort of thing, that was well over $400 a square foot. and that was 3 or 4 years ago. So the $375, although it does seem like it's expensive on a prevailing wage job that has all the requirements that something like this does, will be very similar. And I think on the Depot Street, I don't know how many square feet, but 80 units, they're planning probably a $32 to $34 million project there. So, you are looking at that $400,000 per unit type of a cost. So, now, and I might add, though, that things are being done. Like, for instance, if you do 8 units or less, you're not required, even with with federal funding, you're not required to pay prevailing wage, and it can go out for competitive bid and things like that. So there are opportunities for building affordable housing at less cost, but just certainly not on the same scale that these folks do. So
I would comment,
Thank you.
Mayor,
Mr.
also,
Cordero.
Jack, maybe you can answer this question for me. The added cost, perhaps, would it add to the cost significantly, since they have to build X number more of kitchens and bathrooms and things to make individual dwellings? I mean, you can make one nice kitchen, but these people are having to make 40 small ones.
Right.
I think all that would contribute to inflating the cost to what we would normally like to look at it as.
Sure.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications or requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor, we have neither.
I'll bring this back to the council for discussion and direction. I think that's really interesting because the state keeps telling us they want us to have affordable housing, but they are the reason we cannot have affordable housing. Well, I keep telling them that, but they don't believe me. But anyway, okay.
Makes too much sense.
Madam Mayor, with that,
Yes.
I would put forth a motion for the adoption of a resolution of the City Council for approving the reprogramming of home funds to people's self-help housing for the Sierra Madre Cottages project.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to adopt a resolution approving the reprogramming of home funds to people's self-help housing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Waterfield? Aye. Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Thank you.
The next item is a regular business item. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Read the title.
Read the title. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Let's forget the title. Let's just go ahead.
The City Council will entertain nominations for the position of Mayor Pro Tem for a one-year term.
Thank you. And Mr. Stillwell will be making that report.
Thank you, Mayor Patino and members of the City Council. This agenda item is the annual appointment of the Mayor Pro Tem. Historically, the Mayor Pro Tem position has been rotated among council members on an annual basis based on calendar year. Duties of the Mayor Pro Tem include acting on behalf of the mayor in the mayor's absence, presiding over council meetings in the mayor's absence, and also filling in for the mayor at various community functions and events when the mayor is unavailable. This last year, calendar year 2017, Councilmember Boyson served as Mayor Pro Tem, and this is the time in the second council meeting in December when this item comes before the City Council. This agenda item calls for the mayor to make a nomination for Mayor Pro Tem, which is ratified by the City Council. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications or requests to speak?
No, Madam Mayor, we have neither.
Well, this is a quiet evening.
I know, right?
Gosh. Okay, so I'll bring this back to the council, and at this time, I would like to nominate Councilmember Waterfield for Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second that. Here.
Okay, so I have the motion and the second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Madam Mayor Patino?
Aye.
Councilmember Boyson?
Aye.
Councilmember Moats?
Aye.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
And Councilmember Waterfield?
Next item will be a report by the city manager, Mr. Stillwell.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. The January 2nd City Council meeting is canceled, and I'm tempted to say that concludes my report, but I will say that January 16th, we have a number of agenda items. We have the presentation of the Hometown Heroes, another retirement resolution, and 2 grant authorizations, one for the CalVIP grant for youth safety and one for a soccer complex. We do have one public hearing, and that is for the downtown permit for the 4-story Gateway project building on Broadway and Main, coming back to the council January 16th, and 1 regular business item, technical amendments to the municipal code. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So we'll hear oral reports of council members. Mr. Cordero.
Thank you, Mayor. On December the 7th, I was very proud to attend the recognition of Pearl Harbor at the Freedom Monument in front of Maldonado Center, and honorably placed a wreath in front of the monument on the part of the Elks, and watched our mayor and several other people in the community present a wreath for their corporations. December the 11th was at the police department swear-in. December the 14th, I attended the policy council meeting for the newly formed policy council advisory board called Home for Good. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Cordero. Dr. Moats?
Well, I actually have something to report this time. On December 13th, I, along with the mayor and the city manager, attended the accumulation of school district personnel and principals and superintendents at the Orchid School District, where we discussed mutual problems of the city and the schools, including the difficulty the schools are having with their pension retirement plans. So we all commiserated together.
Thank you. Ms. Waterfield?
Yes, on December the 7th, I too attended the annual Freedom Monument ceremony, and there was an addition to that with the memorial monuments of the soldiers that were killed in action, only pertaining to California. They had their pictures and their family notes that were on there, and that was very, it was breathtaking and touching at the same time. On Monday the 11th, I attended the police department swearing in. And on the 9th, I attended the council workshop interview, a video chat with our upcoming council main focus that we're going to be looking into. On Wednesday, December 13th, I did a mock job interview for 9th graders at Orchid High School, and I interviewed 3 young people, 2 young ladies and a young man. Brilliant people. One of them wanted to be an orthodontist. Another one wanted to be a police officer. And I had another one that wanted to be an anesthesiologist. And they understood exactly what it took. They were prepared. They were just amazing kids. So I was very pleased to do that. I also attended the C3H Policy Council meeting on the homeless on December the 14th. And then later that evening, attended the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce Christmas Social. And that's pretty much it, I believe. Oh, but before I go, I want to wish my daughters, who are twins, happy 37th birthday from Mom.
Mr. Boyson?
No reportable items, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
How are we doing on the water?
Moving right along? Well, we are moving right along. That really hasn't been much done during the Christmas holidays. I think it'll pick up again in January. But we did get the initial allocation for state water from the state of California at 15%. Because we haven't received any rain yet. And that's always a low ball figure that gets thrown out to us. We're anticipating, hopefully with some rains in Northern California, that number will go up.
Thank you. December 6th, I attended the semi-annual Safety Task Force meeting. On the 7th, I attended the annual Freedom Monument ceremony at Abel Maldonado Center. And that afternoon, I attended the Santa Maria Valley Humane Society Humane Heroes Luncheon. On the 11th, I attended the police department swearing-in ceremony. On December 13, I attended the quarterly schools meeting along with Dr. Moats, and that evening, the Planning Commission special public hearing. On December 14th, I met with the new executive director for the Community Action Commission, I did the pre-council workshop interview for goal setting, and the open house at Urban Planning Concepts in the Santa Maria Valley Chamber of Commerce social that evening. On December 16th, I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine. Elvia Chivers called and said she was having a cookie party and would I bring a couple of dozen cookies. And so the idea was that we could exchange cookies once we got there, but then the rest of the cookies were going to go to the firefighters. So then she called I told her to call Chief Champion, and I said, I know we can get the cookies up there somehow. And I guess she did get a hold of you, Chief. And December 17th, open house. I attended an open house in honor of community leaders at Vandenberg. This morning did the Ben Hayes Show and our Rotary Christmas party, and that is it. Any other comments from the dais? Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's council meeting. Good night and Merry Christmas.